Now, a video of a doctor who is the co-chair of the African Union's COVID-19 Africa Vaccine Delivery Alliance speaking to the BBC earlier has gone viral. Dr. Ayoade Alakija is angry, saying that the Omicron variant was inevitable because the world has failed to vaccinate countries equitably. She says that wealthy countries who have hoarded vaccines now want to keep Africans out. This follows the decision of several countries to put southern African countries, including South Africa, on travel bans for now after the new variant of concern was discovered by scientists here in South Africa. It's unclear where the Omicron variant originated from. Dr. Alakija says the travel bans are based on politics, not science, and they're wrong. She joins us now from Abuja in Nigeria. Doctor, thank you for speaking to us late this afternoon. Just tell us more about why you seem to be spitting mad today.
Well, I'm not necessarily spitting mad. I'm just spitting facts. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm spitting facts and I'm telling the truth. I'm telling it like it is. The travel bans. Well, let me. Before we get to the travel bans, you have just spoken about informal traders and the lead up to this segment and the effect that they're worried it's going to have on their lives and their livelihoods of border closures and the therefore knock-on effect that will have on the economy. You see, until the lion learns to write, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And we need to begin to shape our own narrative. So that is why that clip on BBC was so pointed and it was firm. I wouldn't say that I was angry. I mean, I'm mildly, like I think everybody else, mildly baffled and mildly outraged. Anger is probably not the right word about what exactly is going on. We are being led not by science, but by politics. It is time to take back the narrative and to own our truth and tell our own story. The narrative that Africa has largely escaped the pandemic and therefore, we can delay giving them vaccines, or we can, or that people are vax hesitant and therefore we don't really need to give them vaccines. We need to change that narrative because our economies are suffering. This is no longer just a health crisis. This is an economic crisis. It's a social crisis. It's a health security issue for sure. But most of all, it is becoming a political crisis. And what I called for yesterday was for African leaders to also speak up against vaccine apartheid, to speak up against therapeutics apartheid, to speak up against diagnostics apartheid. Enough is enough. And we as Africans need to begin to raise our voice collectively and tell the world that we also have a voice and we also deserve to live and to live lives of quality and not die.
What you're saying is similar to what we've heard from prominent global leaders, the head of the United Nations, the head of the World Health Organization, who I think has been saying, unless we are all safe, nobody is safe. Why is nobody listening?
Because it's about power. Because the world is playing power games with us. And I think this is why I say, and I said to the BBC yesterday, that we need our presidents and our leaders to stand up. Look, we in Africa have largely relegated this to a health crisis. And I think we haven't fully understood that we're not dealing just with a health crisis. Your president, Cyril Ramaphosa, who's going to be speaking, I understand, soon, has, to be fair, done an incredible job in his role as the champion, the Africa Union chair last year, in trying to coordinate a regional response. Because we are much more powerful together. We're much more powerful as a continent, as 1.3 billion people in Africa than the sum of our individual parts. But what we're not seeing, I mean, there's some presidents, in Rwanda, President Kagame, a few of them have spoken up and spoken up strongly, but we're not seeing a collective voice. But what we are seeing from the global north is a collective sort of pushback on us and pushing back a narrative that is almost making it seem as though we don't matter. How can we lock off the whole of Southern Africa? I mean, you said 7 countries. It's actually more than 7 for many. And for Israel, they've actually shut out the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa. Forget the fact that there are cases in Egypt, there are cases in Belgium and many other parts of the world. We've just shut off Sub-Saharan Africa. Why have they done that? Because they think that our voice doesn't matter. because our leaders have not allowed them to feel the full geopolitical force of who we are as Africa. We are Africa. We are not just Nigeria or South Africa or Kenya or Benin or Cameroon or Ethiopia. We are jointly together one continent, and we need to begin to act as such because we are being treated as such. So I'm pleased to hear that President Ramaphosa is going to be in Nigeria this week meeting President Buhari, because I'm hoping that together the combined weight of those giants of Africa, the powerhouses of Africa, will send a strong message to the world as their foreign ministers put their heads together and come up with a strategic plan to ensure that the world no longer treats us like this.
Doctor, just exploring the travel bans, I did see a report that Switzerland was going to block travellers from the UK, which is an interesting development, although it's still mainly southern African countries for now. To play devil's advocate, it does feel punitive, and there are these inequalities here. But beyond that, isn't it fair enough for countries to be a bit concerned, because it does seem like the cases are being linked back to travellers from southern Africa. So right now they think maybe they can track and trace and prevent that community transmission that we all want to stop. It's knee-jerk, but you have a sympathy for what they're trying to do just because we don't know enough right now.
Well, look, I think let us have equity. I'm about equity and justice, right? And so there are far more cases in many of the European countries or in the UK, and I'm pleased to hear that Switzerland is also banning travellers from the UK, and that is why we have to speak out, because if we don't speak out, these things don't happen. Because the cat is out of the bag. This virus is already in 3 continents around the world. Why be selective? What I said yesterday is that if we're going to have a global shutdown, which is quite frankly what we should have had last January, February, had there been the right global political leadership in place, we should have had a coordinated global shutdown, to my mind, for 2 to 3 months to contain this thing before we went from Alpha, which also started in the United Kingdom. The very first variant started because there was uncontrolled spread in the United Kingdom, again because there wasn't, responsible management of the virus. So yes, if we're going to have lockdowns, let us have a coordinated global shutdown, but let us not finger point, and let us also not say that it is because people in Africa are refusing to take a vaccine. That is wrong. We have fought for vaccine equity for the better part of a year and a half, and so the world can now not turn around and try to claim that this is our fault, that a new variant has emerged, this Omicron variant, because indeed it is a failure of the global system, not our failure.
What you raise is still, of course, a huge problem for Africa, the lack of vaccines. But I'd love your comment on the situation in South Africa. Maybe you can give us a comparison with what's happening in Nigeria right now. But we've changed. We have more than enough vaccines, but only about a quarter of the adult population choosing to get the vaccine. Many concerned that vaccine hesitancy is now what is going to kill people. Is that a different kettle of fish? Entirely?
Well, let me reframe that narrative slightly for you. South Africa was late in getting vaccines. I say often that you cannot have vaccine confidence without vaccine equity. The delay in getting vaccines has played into the hesitancy because people were nervous about what was going on. You don't yet have a glut of vaccines. You have vaccines. You don't have vaccines for an entire population. You're slowing down the entry because the logistics systems haven't been quite able to deal with them. We are seeing that, but South Africa has done best out of most of the Sub-Saharan African nations in terms of vaccines. There's no doubt about that. And that is due to the fact that you're an upper middle income country and your political leadership has actually taken this quite seriously, whatever domestically people will want to say. Your political leadership has been responsible and has tried to get vaccines for the people of South Africa, as well as for the people of Africa as a whole. Nigeria, we have less than 2% of our population vaccinated. We are getting vaccines in dribs and drabs. There's vaccines, most of our vaccines are coming either through COVAX or through bilateral donations. The vaccines are coming in short shelf life, so we're having to pause vaccination campaigns with certain vaccines, say Moderna, so that we can quickly use up the ones that were sent, say, by Canada or the UK or France or whoever, because they're about to expire. We have 1.5 million vaccines that some countries have dumped on us in the last few weeks that will expire next month. And yet when those vaccines are not used, the world will say that this was Nigeria's fault. This is wrong. And this is why I say that we have to write our own narrative. You cannot plan mass vaccination campaigns until you have a steady, regular supply and you know when the vaccines are coming in with confidence and you know which products are coming. It's a complex operation.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor, but I think I read that you lost a relative, a 30-year-old woman with 3 children to COVID-19, and you spoke about how it could have been entirely different if she had been vaccinated. What lesson there, in light of your loss, for South Africans who aren't choosing to get vaccinated, or for Western countries who are hoarding vaccines?
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging Elizabeth, who's a member of our household. I have 3 messages, I would say. A message to African leadership to ask them to please sit up, to please wake up, to please take this really seriously and to elevate it from health. It is not the business of health ministers or health departments anymore. This is an economic issue. It's a socio-economic issue. It's a political issue. Please, presidents, elevate it to the level of the presidency and begin to engage so that when, for instance, the Prime Minister of the UK makes outrageous statements, as he has recently, saying that there's an abundance of supply of vaccines, he knows that he's going to get a phone call from an African president saying, hey, bro, please don't do that anymore. We need to push back. That is for our presidents. We need a more coordinated approach from our leadership. To the global leaders, I say, it is time for you to do what, if it is not morally right, it is in your own enlightened self-interest, because we could go from Omicron to Omega in a flash of a moment. We don't know what this thing is going to do. We don't know how it's going to affect the world. And the global economy has just started to recover, but we're seeing the stocks slide again. We're seeing trade start to slow down because everyone is nervous. It is in their own interest to ensure that the whole world is treated in an equitable manner as quickly as possible. And to the people, my brothers and sisters of South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, all over the continent. Number one, we have multiple crises on this continent. We have Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, the Lake Chad region. We cannot afford to be complacent about our health security. People need to go out there and get vaccinated. You need to protect yourselves. You need to protect your families. You need to protect your communities, because we have already enough problems without worrying about those who are not getting vaccinated. We have so much work to do. The mountain we have to climb is huge. But if we put ourselves together, if the voice of Yodi joins with the voice of Tian, joins with the voice of Vama, joins with the voice of John from all over the continent, together our voices will shake and move mountains. But we need to be vaccinated. We need to be healthy. This cannot be a recalibration of our population. We are not going to see Africa taken down by this virus. And it is vaccines and it is treatments and keeping ourselves safe and wearing masks and socially distancing that is going to do that. That is my message to my brothers and sisters, both in South Africa and across the African continent. This is no time for complacency. We need to come together so that our economies can recover, so that our children could go back to school, so that our girl child is no longer suffering abuse, gender violence, being sold off in marriage. This is a catastrophe for our continent, and we need to acknowledge it now.
Doctor, we appreciate your time late this afternoon. That was the co-chair of the African Union's COVID-19 Africa Vaccine Delivery Alliance, Dr. Ayoade Alakija.